everybody, my name's Jodie. I'm a relationship and sex therapist based in Southern California. It is Love Island season again, and for those of you that follow, I'm sure you're going to be the ones that watch this, but if you are not watching this show, it's a hot mess, it's a whirlwind, it's a lot at once, and it's exciting. And of course, as a relationship and sex therapist, you know I've got to have a lot of opinions and thoughts on this show. But again, it's our phase and era of reality TV shows, and what's going to go wrong putting people in their 20s in there to find love. We'll see. This is the 8th season of this show. Of course, they're going to go through the ups and downs. I mean, was it Love is Blind had that to been changing their reunion shows, which I gave my thoughts about that on a previous video. We start Love Island, episode 1. They've got this long musical lip syncing intro. Not a fan. Cut it out. Just leave it alone. It's too much. No, I was not a fan of this. Let's just cut that out. It's becoming a little too gimmicky. I don't need to be seeing the contestants lip syncing. They're not formal actors and actresses. I just want to get to the show and the cheesiness of the show. That's not that though, please. Then we have, Ariana. I love Ariana. I've been watching her since Vanderpump Rules, watched her through all the Tom nonsense, seen Tom on a million shows. Ariana's looking hot as always, coming in with the brown hair. Love her overall. She was always one of the more mature people on Vanderpump Rules, so I'm glad to see her doing well in her career and just love her overall. I will say at one point, not a fan of the first dress. Super pretty. It was just not for me. My neurodivergent brain was like, what? No, it was giving me that impression of that swan dress that kind of goes around the neck thing that people were wearing a while back. Overall, love her. They start introducing all of the contestants, Islanders, whatever you want to call them. On the show, they call them Islanders. Islanders, they're at the villa. They start introducing. I do like their little intros for them. I think that is appropriate, right? When you do a whole thing of who are they? You got all these cut scenes, then looking pretty hot and, all these other things. Sure, talking about their life, getting to see them as a human before, they get into kind of the oh my god, how are you? Things of when they actually meet. My partner was having a really hard time sitting through all of that in the beginning when they were actually getting to the villa. But I did love all the cutscenes and the intros and just kind of getting to know them. We're all trying to get who they are, remember their names, etc. Liked those. I think this is just something that's coming with the younger generations now of just a wider acceptance. I think actually so far, majority of the cast were people of color. They've been pretty good about that in the past as well, but I love seeing all the different representations. They also had a person on there who has a congenital defect and so actually is missing the lower half of one of her legs and so has a prosthetic and everything, and I loved seeing that, as is per the usual with the Islanders, super hot. But I loved seeing all these different abilities and things start to show up on here as well, different cultural backgrounds, things like that. Love it. Not surprised to see it, with the younger generation being judgmental and only having one idea of beauty is just not as much of a thing anymore. Doesn't mean we're all not still superficial at times, but it definitely has improved in that. I remember when I saw Kenzie, for example, Kenzie, I was what does she look like? I've seen her. And for those of you that are wondering, I finally kind of figured it out after doing a little bit of research that she looks like DJ Tanner from Full House, for those of you that are old enough to have watched that. I was she has this face and I can't figure out where it was. But that's where it was if you were wondering, or at least that's what I thought of, because that's one of my types of neurodivergence. It's that person looks like somebody. Most of the time I'm pretty close and spot on. There might be somebody else I'm thinking of, but that was the closest one I could at least find. It just started out the same way that Love Island always does. A bunch of makeouts. Everybody in there has made out with every other person of the opposite gender, basically multiple times throughout the first episode. That's where it starts to get a little too much for me, where I'm no shame on that, but it starts to feel a little bit too extra. That's not always my favorite. And also the kisses sometimes really fast. I'm you're going in hot and heavy first time, and maybe some people are into that. It's not it for me. I having a little bit of nuance, going in, then you get hot and heavy, but right up front, I'm sure they have limited time, okay. And then eventually we had a little bit of vulnerability and having to pick people, and the women got to go first and deciding who they were interested in. And then at the end of the episode, then they kind of decide after a day, how are we feeling about these matches? Do we want to stay coupled up or are we not? In the end, we ended up having Bryce and Trinity, Sean and Beatrice, who also goes by Bea, Sincere and Melanie, Zach and Kenzie, and Casey and Anaya, which was at the first one, our default pick. At the end, the only ones that ended up staying together I forgot to write this down. Bryson, Trinity, I believe, and also Anaya and KC. Bea did not choose Sean. We're assuming it's because that he has a child. I think, that's always a tricky topic of whether we're judging somebody for having a child. Also, I appreciate that she's being upfront about that in what she does and doesn't want in life right now. I mean, keeping in mind, a lot of them are younger 20s. Maybe I think one of them they said was like about to be 30 or turning 30. I think this is a really important, that's a huge decision, having a child and bringing a child into a relationship, whether or not it was a child from a past relationship. I'm assuming, they haven't really talked about it much, but I'm assuming because that's something that she mentioned that that's the reason. Actually, no, maybe it was Sincere. No, I'm sorry. It was Sincere and Melanie was one of the ones that maintained. They were kind of rock solid the whole time, so we were not surprised by that at all. It was, Trinity and Bryce was one of the ones that separated. They both actually did not choose each other, which was interesting because they were like the first one that matched up, and we thought, okay, they're vibing with each other, but then they ended up not choosing each other. So I think she did seem to already kind of be complaining about like he's too LA or something like that. So I'm sure they're going to go into more detail, but this is kind of like where the episode ended. Casey and Anaya, again, they were the default, but like it seemed like as soon as they matched, they were already like, hey, I was actually kind of feeling you, and it ended up working out well. And then Zach and Kenzie kind of chose Zach, so Zach kind of was honest from the beginning that like she's not usually the type of girl that he would go for, but we'll see. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get more information in episode 2. I'm gonna catch up on that today so that I can hopefully do that video also today, and so we're gonna keep up. If you are watching this show, be ready. It's a whirlwind. It's on like 6 days a week. I'm gonna try to keep up here and try to make them for each episode. Just be ready. Obviously, like this video, there's gonna be some spoilers, but I'm really excited to jump in because I had a lot of thoughts and feelings about the show last year and I forgot to post it, but I'm gonna try to stay on top of it this time for you all. So I will see you in episode 2.